had that on
Yeah, she can get it. Yeah, but you've got heavy equipment. Most people don't.
So Thursday from 12 to
Yeah, nothing like having to use a dump truck to move snow.
What do they? Do they have the alley on the schedule in
minister?
just the retired? Well, I guess the fact that they're talking about it
Very
plus.
It was supposed to be done. I mean, they put it up to bid. I didn't hear whether they secured a contract, but they'll do it in the spring. Yeah. Whenever the contractors can get to it is what engineers said. Yeah.
I've got a property over on Prospect. Everybody sits on an alley to run the Pearl. I think that alley. She looked behind God. I'm afraid to have spaghetti. They just do too much damage to my flowers.
No.
They cave, I don't have spaghetti.
Yeah.
I run through there and clean it up, but there's no way I do that now.
Take everybody to the church and
Yeah, I mean that's pretty long. I mean, I was surprised they got to it as soon as they did because it's pretty far down on the list of priorities. But I keep telling them, I said, there are multiple residences. That's our access.
Yeah, that's your driveway.
Yeah.
never got the hospital.
Well, it's 10:05. We should probably start. Julie, you ready?
I am ready.
Okay, let's call the meeting to order, please, everyone.
All right.
Everyone's okay? Everyone okay? All right. Julie, roll call, please.
Rick Coxley.
Here.
Miss Reedy. Mr. Medano.
Here.
Mr. Hummel.
Here.
Miss Diana Kane.
Here.
Mr. Soto. Mr. Manfres.
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum. That's good. Do we have any motion on approval of the November 10th minutes?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion to second. Discussion, corrections? All right. Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right. New business. We have 223 West Main exterior changes. We have someone here for that. You folks, come on up. Come to the microphone and say what you want to say, and we'll talk about it.
It's on.
And Julie,
Yeah, it's on.
could you please state your name and your company and all that, please?
I'm Thomas with TC Architects.
And I'm Wes Ransom with Ford Metropolitan House.
Thank you.
This is my first one.
Just go ahead. Just talk loudly, and we'll.
So basically, the scope of the project is we are doing some of the exterior renovations of updating signage and the awnings, as well as exterior lighting, and resealing the exterior with brick, as well as minor interior work.
The interior work with an airlock door. And it's because the pharmacy, or what used to be the pharmacy, has the two layers of going around to make to connect the upper and lower levels. Since there's only the one set of bathrooms that's on the upper level, so we want to make sure that that's why the ramp is there. And then we are also so we're actually going to turn them so that we have space to make them for turn radiuses and make everything.
That's good. Okay. Okay. I think everyone has seen what they're proposing. Does anyone have any questions for the folks or comments?
I have a comment.
Go ahead.
In your materials, your base bid, you're calling for the signage board to be exterior grade plywood.
Yes, that's the basis. It's currently what is existing on the signage. Exterior grade plywood that was painted from the existing photos we took. It's actually a base bid, but we are thinking of other alternatives, fiber cement paneling or other system.
I saw that you had other products for alternate bid.
Yes.
I wasn't aware that the existing signage, MDO or some other material, panel 5,
15.
or panel 15, yeah. Unless you seal the edges really well on exterior plywood, it's not a favorite product to use as a sign backboard. But I guess my recommendation would be that one of your alternate products be used rather than just a CD grade exterior plywood.
Any other questions or comments from up here? Someone want to make a motion regarding this project?
Real quick, will the lights be LED?
I'll make a motion to approve it.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. You catch those, Julie?
Uh-huh.
Any further discussion?
Well, are we going to ask them to amend that plywood so it would last longer? Or is that, I mean, there's input on it that I agree with.
Well, if you want to amend the motion, you could say that's the caveat that it's approved based on
Alternate uses of materials rather than just exterior plywood.
I think one of the alternates in there was kind of like a AZAC material with that supply.
Right. Yeah, that's what they're saying. That they think it'll be last longer, and if that's okay. You okay with that as an amendment to your motion?
Yes.
Okay. Well, actually, you made the motion.
I'm okay too.
Okay. So everyone understands. Julie, you all set? What the motion is?
No, I'm not.
You want to state?
Motion?
You made it original.
I made a motion of approval with a caveat that the exterior plywood is not used, that the alternative MDO or panel 15 is to be used.
Or AZAC, or something more substantial. Okay. All right, Ted, you want to second that? Is that still good? Okay.
Yes.
All right, further discussion? I think we're all set. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you very much. You're approved.
That easy.
Hope that's okay. All right. Okay. The next item is election of a chairman. I think technically it's a vice chair.
Yes.
Because he's,
I worded that wrong.
Yeah. Bob is the chair.
Yes, Bob's the chair.
Bob is technically the chair. So. Okay. Anyone want to volunteer to be the vice chair?
I'll nominate Rick Oxley.
I'll second that.
Okay. Well, thank you for the confidence, for what that's worth. Okay. What we talked about the last meeting that's referenced here is I just printed out, makes it simple, something to write on. There are
How you doing? Good. How about you? Good.
Hang in there.
We're gonna have a busy year.
Good.
Yeah. Crazy busy year. It's gonna be good though. Before we know it, it'll be 2023. Before you know it, here it is. Groundhog year. Yeah.
I know one of the main things we talked about is amending the ordinances, but the other thing that we talked about several times off the cuff last year was what is it that we're supposed to actually be doing. So what I did is I want to just refer to section 143403G. The duties of the Design Review Commission shall include the following: And I just thought as we're, and it goes up to 13 things. So I just I wanted to take a few minutes for our first meeting to talk about, is there anything of these 13 things that we need to be working on this year? Obviously, part of that has to do with what we personally can do, but also whether we want to recommend that we have a little bit of staff time. Not that Julie and Bob are sitting around twiddling their thumbs, but is there anything on this list that any of you think we are not doing that we should be doing, or yeah, I guess that's the question. Number 6 is our standards that we've talked about updating, and I did, regarding that, I did ask Julie if she would have time to contact the preservation office, because I got a notice that there are grant monies available for various things, and one of them includes things like updating your standards. Now, they did say that some of these grants are 100% grants. You don't need a match. So I've asked if she could check with them and find out what are the realistic possibilities for us getting a grant before we spend any time on it, what kind of amount we could potentially get, and what are the kind of things we can do. So number 6 would be the logical thing if we decide that we want to pursue that further. And I don't know, Bob, if you've heard anything more of recent about thinking about the standards at all. But
Rob Karras, Tuesday night, Rob Karras stated he still doesn't have a proposal that Kent was either Kent received or he hasn't received. I don't know. Somehow he's communicating with Kent. He wanted to see their proposal. But I think what I'd like to just briefly discuss is, are we interested in having our guidelines rewritten completely, or are we interested in, the price tag is quite a bit different, and the time involved is quite a bit different. So that's a question I have for this board.
any thoughts about that question from anybody?
I think reviewed and freshened up is
Not rewritten then.
no, I don't think we need to rewrite them.
Okay, correct.
I just think they need to be refreshed.
All right, and comparing what Kent is doing is not what we're doing. It's completely different. They're writing a historic district, are they not?
I don't know.
Okay, I thought you were involved in it somehow.
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay. All right, that's my understanding, because they don't currently have a historic district, so they're going to create one.
Well, they have.
Whereas we obviously do.
They don't have a downtown historic, right? There are a couple districts, but they're not. One is the industrial district on the west side of the river, and then the Main Street, big old houses out on Main Street. Mm-hmm. But there is not one for the core of downtown. There are registered buildings, but there's no district.
Okay.
I had not paid attention to what's going on with that.
Okay. All right. So that's something I'll report back to the planning committee. Is design review discussed making recommendations to freshen up our current guidelines and ordinances.
I told Julie I'd be willing to contact Bridget Sissel to find out what consultants they talk to. At least that would give us some names and numbers without having to do all that research ourselves.
Yeah. Okay.
Rick, I think item 6 could be expanded. I mean, right now it says to set up standards for new construction are appropriate. It ought to also have remodeling. We do more remodeling than new construction in the historic district. We haven't built a new building in
How long have I been on?
a long time.
Well, actually, number 10, I think, covers. Number 10 is but goes through more detail. And I guess what it has to do with that's for our district. Right. Right.
Okay, for alterations, demolition, additions. Okay,
Now, the thing that jumps out to me on that is the word demolition.
yeah,
This- Diana was talking earlier about the demolition of the building on Main Street. And what we haven't heard much about that.
There's a standstill because there is an agreement out there, but it has to go back through council before it can be approved for NDS to tear the building down.
Well, it's in the process right now. We're getting on it.
Yeah, it's in the process of moving forward with demolition. There's things that have to be approved, but they're working on grants.
are they looking at demolition or selective demolition?
Sign language.
There's some really nice 8-foot deep, 9-foot deep wood trusses in that building.
Other timber trusses.
Finished trusses, they were exposed.
Wow.
Well built building.
See, I have an opinion of that building.
Okay.
When you look at the photograph, when that was built by Albright, that building wasn't very tall. And I'm thinking that it probably had columns in it that supported the roof. And because the building is 8 or 10 feet taller now than it used to be, I'm thinking they may have put those huge, the deep wood beams and spanned the 43 feet, put a new roof on the building, and then torn out the old roof and structure below it.
Wow.
Because those beams, I remember way back, Ravenna Savings, those beams were exposed inside.
Wow.
But they were trying to air condition 20 feet of space. So they came back in and suspended a ceiling below the trusses to cut their air conditioning to the bottom 9 feet. I've been up inside those trusses because when NDS had their offices in that building, they wanted to expand offices inside those
Create a
trusses.
mezzanine kind of a thing. Yeah. Sure.
And the bottom cords are 8x8s.
They put a floor across them.
Put a floor between it and come up and you could walk between, but it pretty much was you had to come up and stay between trusses.
Yeah.
But there were ways to do things, but it was going to be prohibitively expensive, and that's when they wind up buying the drugstore
Right.
and moving to their current location.
Right.
But that building, those trusses weren't original. That building is much taller now than it used to be. And I'd be surprised if you tore the concrete tiles off the front of that building that there's any of that other facade still there. I don't think there's anything under that to save because any gingerbread that was on that building as part of the Art Deco was torn off in order to attach those concrete tiles.
Right. But you could put a new facade on that building like that.
We did proposals to do that.
Right. I remember seeing some of it.
Yeah.
It just don't.
Problem is, it looks like a 2-story building, but it isn't a 2-story.
Yeah. But is that a problem? Ultimately, I mean,
No.
is it worth taking out a building for a few parking spaces and a few shrubberies? That's where I just have heartburn when there's so much parking in town, you know, except for after it snows. But
Well, there's a lot of parking in town, but 3/4, because 80% or 90% of the parking lots are all private.
right,
And those lots are not available until after business is closed at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
So while it looks like there's a lot of parking spaces, other than on street, there's the city lot behind Wolf Scorman's. Almost everything else is private, owned by the county. The county's got the two big lots off of Prospect, and all the other lots scattered around are, the one behind Eric's building has 35 parking, 40 parking spaces, but it all belongs to the tenants, and it's all private. None of that's available until after 5 o'clock and he's got my 9 spaces are available after 5 o'clock, and as are the Guido's employees swoop in and take my spaces after 5 o'clock when their afternoon shift comes in. They're trying to come in and take them at 4 o'clock. And I have to go over and shake my stick and say, you can't park here until 5 o'clock.
That's where they're supposed to be parking.
Yeah, I watched 3 of them park in the theater the other day.
That's because they didn't. They couldn't get into.
All right, getting back to our list, if we could. Go ahead.
Number 12 here.
Go ahead.
Seek expertise before reaching a decision when considering a National Register nomination. See, I've been in business 50 years, and they're talking about what used to be that all of a sudden structures that are 100 years are going to be almost everything in the city.
All right.
So we're going to come up with that charge to figure out what's the advantage. I mean, what we have to do to put them on the register, or maybe the National Register will change to 150 years. I don't know.
Now, the register isn't about the age. There's different criteria for being registered.
Yeah.
And it has to do with one of many criteria. One of them is that it's a distinguished example of the character of the period in which it was built. One of it is related to an event or a person, a personages of significant impact on the community. There's more than that. I don't say I have them all memorized. So, but the question, I guess, what you're asking is, are there buildings that should be registered, or one of the big things we talked about 5 years ago was expanding the historic districts.
Right.
And that came out of, the thinking that, yes, exactly what you're saying. We have all streets in town that have a fantastic, are a cohesive street or district built, at the same time as, Jack Schaefer talked about, that could be an expansion of our historic district or our own, little district.
Well, no, we're looking at the whole city in general, and it's a beautiful city. There are lots of houses going to be renovated, and it would be nice if we could have a little positive influence on them. And that's why I suggested at one time, make the whole town the historic preservation. Well, that could be cumbersome, but this is going to become more and more of a situation that we might want to address, because we want to keep that character of this city and other little cities around the country. So I don't know how it's going to.
So how do we do it?
I don't know. I don't know. It's going to be.
Well, but that's our charge, though. I mean, if our charge and our part of our, when we agree to do that, is to do these things. This is where this comes from. And so expanding the district, we met some resistance in doing that. So maybe the other strategy has to be that we develop programs and grants and educational materials that we can get out to the community and say, hey, when you're redoing a porch on this 1920s house, just don't go to Home Depot and slap up a piece of whatever you find at Home Depot that is on sale.
That's what number 2 says. Work to continually educate the constituency here. And, that's, I don't know if we're doing that.
Well, I think that would be very worthwhile. I don't know what that means for us sitting in this room. Are we going to do it? Are we going to?
Well, what might be beneficial would be to take some of the information that we already have and sit down with somebody from the Record Courier and see if the first Sunday of every month we could put a little article in the paper, doors and windows, talking about storefronts, talking about cornices and roofs, talking about just the generalities and some pictures and create a little article that maybe the Record Courier would put in the paper and use that as a vehicle to get some things out.
Where's Angie? She's the editor. I mean, she's a reporter, right? She writes articles about it.
Oh, you mean Angie's little thing about town? Well, that's an interesting point.
Yeah.
It's already an established.
Maybe she could pick up and add a little blurb in her column.
Yeah. In reference to one of our charges, number 2, to educate them.
I like that.
Nothing lengthy, but just hit doors and windows.
Right.
Just, if the door. And don't just arbitrarily head, as you said, to Lowe's and buy a door that doesn't fit with the character of the house. It doesn't take much more money to do it correctly than it does to just do it.
Right.
And
Good point.
I remember Jack Schaefer did those full-page things. We don't have to do that, but he sort of set the example that we can educate people what we have. Because you're right, the resources and the architectural resources in this town are amazing, utterly amazing. Okay, so that's number 2.
Copies of all of Jack's presentations.
I'm sure Peggy would have access to them. It'd be nice to get the original files.
Yeah.
Because those could be reused and divided up into smaller pieces.
Yes.
Yeah, they could do that.
See anything on this list that jumps out at you that we could work on?
We talked about the website, and we need to move forward with that, even though we're use what we have, move forward with it, use what we have. And some of these things could be also posted on our website.
Right.
Maybe we would get tens and tens of followers or something like that.
Yeah. Well, but the thing about it is, if we start having things in the paper and we let people know, you just put a little QR code for the website in the paper, and people can aim their phone and that into the Ravenna website.
Right.
I guess, and that's the other thing we can link to it. And I haven't talked with Peggy lately, but the Schaefer Fund gave money to regional planning to create links and documents on all the historic properties in Ravenna Township and the city. So that'll all be there, so we can just link to that.
Sure.
We don't have to build all that.
Okay.
So that'll be nice once that's done. Once that's done.
Eric, you had commented on 12 when considering a National Register nomination. I don't think anything's been nominated in the last 25 years.
Probably not.
After they came through the city and went building by building and basically said, we'll accept that building, the homes that were selected, that was all done at one fell swoop 25 years ago or whenever. And I don't know whether the people whether they just came from Columbus or whether there were some people that came from the national office, but they started at Sycamore and went all the way down and looked at every building, had photographs of the buildings. You know, my building was built in 18, a period of time when it changed from the original design to an Italianate. And the roof stuck out, big knee brackets. It was a classical Italianate building. Didn't start that way, didn't end that way, but it went through a period from 1880 something through 1920 that it became an Italianate building.
So it was only 20 years old when they remodeled it.
Sometime in there, I have pictures prior to 1900 that had the Italianate top on it. But when the Italianate top, which obviously was built out of wood, as it deteriorated, they just tore it off. So it showed up and then it disappeared.
Yeah.
And now it's very plain, which is pretty much how it started. But
Yeah.
They wanted to see that building with the Italian time.
Yeah.
But there were some buildings that I thought merited that didn't get put on, and I mean, we did get a number of buildings that were selected and placed on, and a number of houses that were selected.
Well, and that might be something we can use the grant for. Is maybe we can find a local person or a historian that can work with Ohio Preservation Office and just do a survey. You know, I mean, again, it could be expanding the district, or it could just be to find individual buildings and just do the nomination process.
Right.
It takes time. I've done it. It's not rocket science, but it takes time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing there's probably more houses moving east down Main Street were originally put on, and whether there's others that could be added.
You see anything on the list that jumps out at you?
Not in particular. I kind of missed if you were looking at me for a reply or something.
Well, just looking at it.
Not prior to this, I mean, no, I'm just thinking about communicating with the public. I'm very disgusted with our newspaper, as probably most people are. And I'm thinking of quitting my subscription because of the cost. And now they don't have Monday
I know.
that they're going to publish. I didn't get the paper today to bring it in, if I got it.
That right now is weather, though.
Oh, I know, but it doesn't matter. It's good with or bad. But it's just like they're not doing much with local things that I know about. And I just was wondering if we could put out a letter like with the water department, or just like monthly with things bringing up some of these things.
Or quarterly event to start with.
Right, and like just to inform people if they look at the addendum to the water bill again, but we might hit more people, including rental properties. Somebody has to pay for water.
I mean, the problem is the Record Courier isn't a local paper.
Oh, I know. I called the other day about my subscription and what I was going to do, and I didn't even know anything about Ravenna.
Yeah.
She didn't even know where it was. It's Gannett. We're all part of Gannett.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But that's my opinion on our paper. It's even like David Dix's column. I looked for that Sunday paper, there was nothing. And he usually has a Sunday article. And there was one he was going to write up on it, and it wasn't in yet. So, I don't know. I wish we could communicate better with what we would like to do and whatever the style is at the present time, so it doesn't get changed drastically.
Yeah.
OHPO offer, I'm guessing that would be online or web-based
I don't
classes or seminars or.
Do they do any lunch and learns or anything like that?
know. I can talk to Mary Beth.
Fine, Google Ice, and if you know off the top of your head, I think that'd be interesting to.
Yeah.
I mean, if somebody would come up and give us a 2 or 3 hour presentation some afternoon, I would be in favor of that.
Presentation on what?
Just the state of historic preservation in Ohio, where things are, how things are.
I think that's good. And that would be even something that we could have as a public meeting.
Yeah.
You know, just not for us, but whoever wants to come from the community could come and.
Right.
There are 2 people I know that are very interested in our town and our history. And one is, I can, not Brian here that was there, the one under him, that did the history on my home, where I grew up, which was built by Quaker Oats. And my house where I'm living in, there was a tie-in to Quaker Oats with my house, which I didn't even know until I went to that meeting. He had a good attendance. I can't think of his name. Does anybody here know who I'm talking about? He's with the public library. Oh, I wish Angie was here. She'd know. Anyhow, he did a super job. He's trying to put out the historic attributes of Ravenna and the history of homes. And there's somebody else who's also very interested in. He is the one that owns the winery, and he has a screen up there that he shows pictures of way back, pictures I've never even seen. I said to him later, I said, "Where did you get all these pictures?" He said, "Oh, I get them from everywhere. I go to sales, I do all this." And he's really interested in the history of Ravenna, and he would probably be interested in doing something to further our town. Both of those 2 people, and I'll get their name.
I mean, we don't have we have the county historical society, but we really don't have at this point an active Ravenna historic group, right?
Right.
Well, I mean, we're as close as it comes.
Right. I think they're trying to expand what they're doing and get more interest in it. A lot more interest.
I think you're right. Well, it sounds like we could put these things on our to-do list and keep them on our agenda, and we should probably divide up the work. Some of us actually sitting here working on some of these things rather than just talk about them. So. Anything else before we? I don't think we have anything else on the agenda. Anything else on this list before we adjourn? I think we're all up to snuff now on all the things we're supposed to be doing. Julie keeps our minutes for us. They become our annual report. She's very good at making sure we comply with the public meetings, sunshine laws, and I think we've done pretty well with avoiding conflict of interest. So I don't see. And we talked about, I think we've asked them to make some tweaky changes, but that is where it is at this point.
Okay, I've got one other question because it's kind of fresh in my mind here. There's some movement to do some expansion of housing in Ravenna because of the new businesses that are on the threshold of coming in. I wonder if we could have any influence over that. I don't know how, but so that it would be more compatible or somewhat compatible with the theme of the city versus some other things. I don't know.
So what are people talking about? I'm not familiar with what.
Well, actually, the mayor, through his engineer, who slipped out and didn't say anything, but they're trying to attract new businesses to Ravenna.
Right.
And one of the worries they have is that a business will say there's no housing for their employees, and they're really looking for possibly the management side. So there's not much room to develop in Ravenna except Spring Tree area, and then up behind that north, which was Ron Wilson's farm. There's about 30 acres there, wanting to be developed to do something, you know.
And they're talking multi-family, single family.
Some more condominiums or whatever, or a mixture of them. But it'd be nice to have them a little compatible with the city. What I'm saying is, maybe in our educational thing and our expansion of the historical ideas, we could at least try to influence that a little bit. I don't know. Still thought. And then as new buildings, you know, if we're gonna, there could be a development on the old high school property, you know.
Oh, that property is a critical property.
Yeah, you know, but we have the main street, you know, on the side street we can go around to. Maybe we can have a little influence into that. And there's another property down by the Catholic Church that might be developed. Those are the areas that I've heard about. So having a little influence in that could be worthwhile. I don't know what to do with that, but here we are.
Well, I guess the thought that comes to my mind is that if we have infill development, what was the number 6, new construction. To set up standards for new construction is appropriate, and it might be something that we just need to go to city council and say that if it's on Main Street, that it, you know,
or possibly expand our influence
right.
into new development in the city. You know, it's there. You know, it's part of our charge to a certain extent.
Anyone? Any other thoughts?
Did they know that when they were doing that Main Street program that they wanted to have someday? Did they?
Years
all
ago
about-
when they did it?
I'm sorry, what?
Oh, years ago or just recently?
Just recently, what they want to do, which I know I've been interested in. Did they think about economic development as well and housing in
There
the
was
city?
some dialogue.
Did they bring that up at all? Like where
Yeah, a
people
little bit.
live?
A little bit.
You're saying yes or no? They should have.
Anything else?
Onward.
Okay, before we quit, do you have any thoughts, wisdom, comments, advice?
Well, I think the name of the guy at the library you were trying to think of is Kevin Gray.
Yes.
Kevin,
Thank you.
yeah.
Kevin Gray.
And you talked about having some influence on the new construction. Almost all of that goes through the planning commission. It's public meetings you could attend and offer advice, counseling at planning commission meetings.
Good.
That's all.
Good point.
Yeah, we are supposed to be advisory to the, but that's well taken for sure. Okay, we have a motion to adjourn.
So I'll make it.
We have a motion from Pat and second by Eric. Thank you all for coming. Same time, same place next month.
Yep.
Okey-doke. Don't get stuck
Not
in
at
the
the
snow.
same time. I mean, this is the second meeting.
Well, you know.
February 10th. February what? 10th. Thank you.
Is that what it would be?